Alright folks, today we're diving into the world of misunderstood machines, cars that got bullied, clowned on, and roasted by everyone, from journalists to memes on the internet. But here's the thing, most of that hate? Totally undeserved. These cars might not have been perfect, but they weren't as bad as people make them out to be. 1. Toyota Prius. Okay, we have to start with the obvious one, the Toyota Prius. Probably one of the most hated cars of all time. People make fun of it for being ugly, slow, and for having drivers that hog the fast lane. It's become the stereotype of a boring eco-box. But let's take a step back here. When the Prius came out, gas was getting expensive, climate concerns were rising, and hybrid tech was still seen as science fiction. The Prius changed that. It made hybrids cool. Well, okay, maybe not cool, but it made them normal. And you know what? That's even better. It wasn't built to win drag races. It was built to save fuel and your wallet. And it did exactly that. Plus, think about how many Uber drivers, commuters, and families this car has helped over the years. The reliability is legendary. The running costs are peanuts. And hey, even celebrities in Hollywood bought them to look green before Teslas were a thing. 2. Pontiac Aztek. Now let's talk about the punching bag of the car world, the Pontiac Aztek. If the internet had a hall of shame for ugly cars, the Aztek would be right at the entrance. People laughed at it for years, calling it the car that looked like it was designed by 3 different committees that never met each other. But here's the thing, the Aztek was ahead of its time. No, really. This was one of the first crossovers before crossovers exploded in popularity. It was insanely practical. It had a removable cooler in the center console, a tent package for camping, tons of cargo space, and it could handle rougher roads with ease. Sure, the design wasn't easy on the eyes, but if you look past the face only a mother could love, it was actually a very clever family car. If GM had launched this with a more refined design, it could have been a massive success. Plus, let's be honest, Breaking Bad gave it a little bit of street cred. Walter White, the man who built an empire, drove an Aztek. If it's good enough for Heisenberg, it deserves a little more respect from us. 3. Hummer H2. Alright, time for the big boy, the Hummer H2. This thing got dragged through the mud, literally and figuratively. People said it was a gas-guzzling monster, uselessly oversized, and only bought by people who wanted to look tough at the mall. And yes, let's be real, it wasn't the most efficient vehicle in the world. Okay, fine, it was terrible on gas. Like, single-digit miles per gallon terrible. But here's the thing, the H2 was a product of its time. The early 2000s were all about excess. Big rims, big trucks, big sound systems, and the H2 fit right in. Celebrities drove them, rappers put them in music videos, and kids had posters of them on their walls. And you know what? The H2 actually had real off-road capability. It wasn't just a poser. It was based on serious GM truck platforms and could climb trails most SUVs today wouldn't dare touch. It looked mean, it made a statement, and it was fun. Now, with today's giant Escalades and massive G-Wagons, the H2 doesn't even look that ridiculous anymore. It was just ahead of the oversized SUV curve. So yeah, maybe it wasn't the greenest car ever, but it was iconic. And icons don't deserve hate. They deserve a nod of respect.
4. Fiat Multipla.
Okay, I can already hear the laughs through the screen. The Fiat Multipla, often called the ugliest car in the world. And listen, I get it. Those bug-eyed headlights, that weird step-up design, it looked like 2 cars got stacked on top of each other. But let's not forget, this was one of the most practical family cars ever made. It had 6 seats arranged in 2 rows of 3. That means Mom, Dad, and little Timmy could sit up front together, and the other 3 kids sat in the back. It was roomy, it was clever, and it was super comfortable for long trips. Car reviewers at the time actually praised it for its practicality. It was like a Swiss Army knife on wheels. The problem was, most people just couldn't get past the looks. But hey, if you think about it, car design is all about standing out, and the Multipla definitely stood out. Today, people collect them ironically because of how unique they are. It's like the ugly duckling of cars. You laugh at it, but deep down, you secretly kind of respect it. 5. Mazda RX-8. Car number 5, the Mazda RX-8. Enthusiasts love to hate on this one. The complaints are always the same. The rotary engine is unreliable, it drinks oil, it guzzles gas, it needs rebuilds all the time. And yes, if you didn't take care of the rotary, it could give you headaches. But here's the thing, the RX-8 wasn't about being practical. It was about being different. It had a high-revving rotary engine that screamed all the way up to 9,000 RPM. It was lightweight, balanced, and had one of the best chassis Mazda ever built. And unlike most sports cars, it had rear suicide doors that made it surprisingly usable for daily life. If you owned one, you knew the quirks, but you also knew how special it felt. It wasn't a car you bought because it was sensible. You bought it because it was an experience. So yeah, it might not have been as bulletproof as a Corolla, but come on, the hate it gets is way too much for a car that gave us so much fun.
6. Chrysler PT Cruiser.
Boy, the Chrysler PT Cruiser. Probably one of the most mocked cars in modern memory. People call it dorky, cheap, and just plain weird looking. And if you drive one today, chances are you've heard at least one joke about it. But here's the truth. The PT Cruiser was a huge success when it launched. Chrysler couldn't keep them on dealer lots. Why? Because it dared to be different. It leaned into retro styling at a time when people were craving something other than generic sedans. It was also practical. Tons of headroom, flexible cargo space, and even a turbocharged version for people who wanted a little more pep. For the early 2000s, it was a breath of fresh air. Yeah, it didn't age well. But cars are products of their time, and back then, the PT Cruiser was the thing. The fact that people still talk about it today proves it left an impression. That's more than you can say about most boring crossovers clogging the roads right now. 7. Mitsubishi Eclipse, 4th gen. And finally, let's talk about the Mitsubishi Eclipse, specifically the 4th generation. This car gets slammed for not living up to the legend of the earlier models. People said it got heavier, less sporty, and more of a cruiser than a tuner's dream. But here's the thing, even if it wasn't as raw as the old Eclipses, it still had a place. It had stylish looks, it was affordable, and for a lot of young drivers, it was their entry into the car scene. The Fast and Furious franchise made the Eclipse a pop culture icon. Even today, you can't look at a green Eclipse without hearing someone say, "Too soon, Junior." The 4th gen wasn't perfect, but it still carried the Eclipse name into the 2000s. And it kept the flame alive for fans who wanted something sporty looking without breaking the bank. So yeah, maybe it didn't live up to the hype, but hate? Nah, it doesn't deserve that. And that's for today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Got thoughts, questions, or video ideas? Drop them down in the comments. I read every single one,